Hello, and welcome to another episode of Going Live with Global Learning. My name is Lori Brown. I'm a professor of management in the business department, and I'm excited to be able to introduce to all of you Celine Laurent from Bordeaux, France, who's visiting and wants to share a little bit about French culture and why she's here. We're also going to talk a little bit about an exciting opportunity that all of you may want to get involved with through study abroad and virtual exchange. So let's begin. Hello, Celine.
Hello, Lori.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm so happy to be here. I've come all the way from Bordeaux.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you. I know I've had an opportunity to spend some time with you and even travel a little, but I want to make sure that our audience, our Kirkwood audience and students specifically, know a little bit more about you. So could you tell us about yourself and what brings you to Iowa?
I've been teaching English actually for about 25 years in France. I also teach intercultural relationships. I have students who study for a 2-year technical degree in international trade. And I've come to Iowa because it's so exciting for us to have this partnership with Kirkwood Community College and this program, which is called the 7 Bridges program, and which involves Kirkwood, but also universities and schools from all over Europe.
So can you tell us a little bit more about 7 Bridges and your involvement?
So this program is kind of a huge program involving a business school in Rotterdam, a business school in Finland, the University of Brașov in Romania, the University of Bordeaux, and also my students from my high school in Bordeaux, and also students from Porto in Portugal. I think I haven't forgotten anybody.
No, I think you got it all. I have a personal connection with this program as well, as you know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that our audience knew a little more. As the program lead here at Kirkwood, my involvement last year was to recruit students to be part of this truly global exchange with students from all over the European Union that ultimately ended in a study abroad program to Bordeaux, France over spring break this past year. This coming year, same program with some new excitement added to it. Kirkwood has been added as an official bridge. Last year we had the program marketed as the 6 Bridges. This year Kirkwood is now one of the 7 schools involved that includes a total of 6 countries. That's pretty exciting, excuse me. And then, of course, that's how I got to know you last year through the program, both in Portugal when we had our planning meeting and then ultimately when we took students to France. Thank you again for greeting us so graciously in Paris and then, of course, taking us to Bordeaux to travel your beautiful country. On that note, I am curious. So tell us a little bit about French culture. Maybe just summarize. I know you just spoke to another class. Maybe a little bit about what you shared with them and maybe what you've discovered since you've been here in Iowa.
Well, yeah, it was really, really enriching, very exciting for me to discover Iowa because I had been to the U.S. already, but I had been to New York, I had been to Arizona, to Georgia, and I shared an anecdote with you about the fact that on the travel guide I had bought, which is like one of the most important travel guides in France, one of the most important publisher, they don't mention Iowa. And actually all the states around Iowa, it is as if it didn't exist for French people. And that's precisely what triggered my curiosity. And I really also wanted to discover what is considered, I think, as the heart of America. And it was very, very interesting to me to also discover the huge continent you have. I mean, the huge country and the huge territory. So I've been to South Dakota as well, to Mount Rushmore, and Yeah, it's so it's both different. Of course, it's so different from the French culture. And as I said to your students this morning, I think one of the most striking thing is the fact that American people like to do things quickly. They like to ask. They like to take risks. Whereas in business, French people are more cautious. They spend more time thinking about something before signing any contracts or stuff like that. So that's something which I really felt here since I have arrived. Yes.
I think that's fascinating. Of course, not to make this an educational podcast entirely, but talking about Hofstede's cultural model, right,
Yeah.
and the dimensions of culture and how we approach things differently. Certainly from the business lens, I appreciate that. Yeah, because I recognize that too, right? Having taken students to France, the cultural differences, and then this particular program that you're part of, that I'm part of the Seven Bridges, is fascinating because it's not only going to result in a study abroad opportunity for students this coming year to Romania, but it's also going to involve working with students from France, Portugal, the Netherlands, Finland.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know if we said Finland the first time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's
Finland, yeah.
very, very exciting opportunity. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. So since you've been in Iowa and the Midwest, what are some of the highlights? What are some of the things that have been most interesting to you?
Well, the fact that I think it's a very peaceful area. It's really different from, for example, I've been driving here from Illinois actually to Mount Rushmore, and I found it a lot easier than in France, where there is always traffic jams and people getting nervous while driving. Here it sounds really easy and. Yeah, I like that, the immensity, the huge territory, and the fact that it's not as densely populated as in France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of spending some of the time that you've been here. And I know you're visiting with your children as well. And I have to share the story that you shared with me when you first left Iowa. You had come to Chicago. Well, or maybe this was coming from Chicago to Iowa. I can't remember exactly when it occurred, but when you went to the gas station for the first time, and you sent me a note and you said, "I just had the shock of my life," and I was quite frightened because I thought maybe you accidentally put diesel in the car.
No.
I didn't know, right? Because we had talked about what type of gas. Now, mind you, you're in a small hybrid. You're driving a Prius, but do tell that story because I think it's a very different experience, right? Driving here than not just the traffic, but
well, yeah. The first big difference is that it's the first time I've driven an automated car. So it seems so easy to me. It feels like you don't even need any driver's license because it's so easy. So that was the first shock, actually. And the second one was at the gas station because I was about to ask the lady at the counter to put like $50 or $60 to fill in the car, but then I ended up filling the car with only $20, and I thought there was a problem with the car. I said, no, that's not possible. $20 for that it's not possible because in France it would have been like 3 times higher, and that's so the price of fuel here is just amazing to me. I want to live here. I want to stay here.
I love that you shared with the class that you presented earlier, and it was my global business skills class. You presented the size of France in comparison to the size of Texas, basically.
Yeah, approximately, yeah.
Yeah. And yet how different it is, right, being in Europe. And for our listeners who've never traveled abroad, and specifically to Europe, the European Union, much set up like the United States, but going from country to country versus state to state. Are you willing to, could you share maybe just a little bit about those differences for any students who might be looking at?
Yeah.
Obviously, I would love to promote just my program to Romania and this involvement with all of these schools in the European Union, but there's other study abroad opportunities this coming year, and maybe give students some insight on that.
And that's also the reason why this Seven Bridges programs is really important and very fascinating because we had already this experience last year, and considering that, for example, the students from Finland are very different from the students from Portugal and from France. Like maybe an example, which is like one of the most striking differences between our students, were that when they had some meetings via Zoom. to connect, because they had teams working. Each team was working on a specific project with a company in Europe. And so when they had to meet, you could be sure that the Finnish students were like 5 minutes earlier. I mean, they were right on time. And the French students were always late. And the Portuguese students were even more. I mean, they came even later, and that's part of what is interesting. It's not just management; it's also discovering each other's culture, and the fact that we have to adapt because that's just the way we are. So,
absolutely, absolutely. What would be some advice you would give to students who want to travel abroad?
Oh, I would just say go for it. I mean, it's just be curious. Don't just stick on the stereotypes you have, but try to go to the country, to a foreign country, to discover if these stereotypes are true or false, and make up your mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. One other thing you shared with my class earlier, I thought this was quite interesting. Within France, going back to France itself, the various differences, right, in the different regions. Would you mind just highlighting a little bit about that for our audience?
As I told your students this morning, it can be very different having business relationships with someone from the north of the country and with someone from the south of the country. We don't even have the same accent, the same vocabulary. We don't have the same habits. For example, in the south, people are more, they like to get closer physically, I mean, to you, even if you've got a manager. A manager can be very close to you, and that's not something bad or wrong. That's the way it is. Whereas in the north, people tend to be more distant, for example. It means that it can be very different to deal with someone depending on the country, on the region you are in France. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, how exciting. And we're just so thrilled to have you here. I know we only have you for a few more days, but we're excited to have you not only doing this podcast, but also sharing information with some of our business classes, which is wonderful. And I'd like to just, do another plug for the Seven Bridges program and encourage students get involved with that program. Of course, other programs out there are just as wonderful, but this program's so unique because it does involve so many schools, and there's a good opportunity you would actually get to meet Celine in person when we travel to Romania next year.
Yeah.
Do you have any last comments or anything you'd like to share regarding your experience?
I'm just so glad that we are doing these kind of programs and also involving countries like the USA, because of course we've got many programs within the European Union, but it's really great to be together with the US as well. We have so much to learn one from one another. So it's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm already thinking of the moment when I come back.
Good. I hope so. Well, I look forward to this ongoing partnership, both virtual and in person. And thank you again for sharing
thank you.
sharing your culture and your experiences here in Iowa and the Midwest.
Yeah.
So thank you. I just wanted to verify my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. But thank you for another episode of Going Live with Global Learning. And thanks again to Celine.
Thank you.